our steak today?
No.
Stew was good?
Yeah, plenty.
There's a bit left.
Oh, I actually forgot to put it in the container. I think so. I got the container ready and didn't do it.
Might have that bit on toast tomorrow.
Yeah.
Would be nice. Emily sent an attachment. Must have got the same. I think it's the rice dish I told her.
I don't know. I'm watching a satisfaction video.
Oh, you didn't get a message?
Not that I've seen yet.
G'day, old gringo. How are ya?
Hello.
He is tired. But it's all coming to an end. Well, it never ends, of course, but... You got sent home last night. Yeah, they're probably changing the structures, I imagine. Ah, well, there you go. Yeah, even people just with a common cold are getting sent home. No, it's the same here. They are taking it serious. I mean, we're very fortunate in Australia. We've had over 1,000 confirmed cases and we've lost 7 people. So that won't stay that figure, but it's pretty good for now. Yeah. But you'll obviously get paid, I guess. Yeah. Yep. That's like I say. But we're not taking it lightly. The country's closed down. You can't fly into Australia, and you can't fly out. And I think Monday domestic flights get cancelled. And we did go to the supermarket today, just get bits and pieces that we needed, and the shelves are a bit fuller.
Yeah.
You're going to make a canoe, yeah? Just tell me where you land with your GPS and I'll come pick you up. The true figures of infection are obviously going to be a lot higher. It's only those that have been tested. I think they've tested about 150,000. Hit Kirribilli. Yeah, you probably would. Prime Minister will let you in. No, you're not going to crash into Solomon's. Be hard pressed to find it. It's way out in the middle of nowhere. Unless you get lucky like Columbus. Oh, I found the Solomons. I was looking for Australia. We'll call it Old Gringo Land. Yeah. Honiara. Capital City. 2 cars in one street and 1 hotel. Yep, doesn't get much smaller. The season's changing here for sure. We've got a whole week over getting close to 100 again, but that's normal. We get these fluctuations. Today was about 92, something like that. But pleasant enough. It was hot. You didn't find it hot today, did you? Hello?
Oh, sorry, what?
You didn't find today too hot?
No.
It was about 92. It'll be about 95 tomorrow. Close to 100 for a couple of days, and then it will be gone. We'll be back down to the 24s and 25s. Yeah, that's what normally happens, isn't it? Both sides of the planet. You go from cold to warm, and the bugs love it. And then when you go from warm to cold, it's the same. And it's traditionally the start of our cold and flu season in April, so... But it's fairly gradual here. It doesn't go a sharp drop. It does go a sharp rise come summer. Sort of, we don't have a spring. It goes like autumn, winter, summer. What happened to spring? I don't know. Didn't happen.
You're not showing. Can't find you. There it is.
It's going to be different on YouTube too. Obviously, if businesses are closing down, I mean, we don't rely on income from YouTube, but we get 30 odd bucks a month, which is good. We tuck that away and send some gifts out to people from time to time. But the bigger people are going to be a bit worried because no production, no advertising.
Okay, I'm just going to check. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, Gday season beautiful. That's good.
Yeah, so that'll probably kick in about another couple of weeks. People will be thinking, how come I'm not making any money?
And you added some letters or something to your name, old gringo. What have you done to your name?
Some sort of hieroglyph. I can't see it from here properly. Because my eyes are old. Ensu. That is Lance in Japanese. Japanese people, I don't dislike them, but they're very pushy as a rule. They don't believe like a queue is actually for them. Gringo-san. Yeah, it's Gringo-san. That's all Gringo. Oh, yeah, Gringo-san.
And you'd be sit-on.
Yeah, they're a bit pushy sometimes. Mind you, the Chinese tourists are the same.
Chinese, Japanese, yeah. Russians.
I think the Chinese think that Australian people are like the fauna. They go, oh, kangaroo, oh, Aussie. Hello, Tammy? If none of you are not doing anything tomorrow morning, you're welcome to come over and help me paint the skirting boards. A month at a time in Japan. Sounds like furlough to me.
The wind's changed, isn't it?
It has. That's why it's going to get warmer tomorrow. It's kicking in the easterly from the desert.
Can you speak a bit louder?
I'll try. Hello, Tammy. This is Australia calling. Tammy, can you hear us? I shall try to speak a little louder. Hong Kong, Macau, not so friendly, especially the British soldiers. Yeah, they can be a bit pompous. We call them POMs, actually. Prisoners of Her Majesty. POMs. That's right, up until I think 1999, wasn't it? Or thereabouts, 2000.
Yeah.
Yep, POM means, well, Aussies made it up, of course, but Prisoner of Her Majesty. I don't like it. There you go, you POM. Don't call me a POM.
You need to spray. Got a mozzie? Yes, you have on your shirt, hun.
Oh no, bigger than Aussie. Change the season, see? One thing I'm happy to kill is mosquitoes. The little buggers. Actually, that chair must have been pushed back against the wall. See the little or leather mark?
Oh, could be. Yeah, I think it was pushed back again, so I don't know when. It's bits we've got to fix.
Hmm?
Bits and pieces we have to
Yeah, no,
fix.
no drama.
Doesn't matter which way you do something. Always.
Yeah, we see, I've got to tell you, the Poms don't like the Irish, as a rule. Even if you're an American Irish, they'll think of you as Irish. Yeah. Well, you got to remember Northern Ireland in the 1980s. Sinn Féin. Yep, that's what I figured.
Oh, I just saw lightning
Mm,
in those clouds over there.
right. Yeah, there was a fairly big, in the 80s, we all know, some of the Irish families in the US were supporting the IRA, and they openly admitted it, because no one else was. So that's probably where their contempt of your name came from. I still think Ireland is an injustice. Even though my heritage is British, we shouldn't have ever taken Ireland, even the portion to the north. It should be all Ireland. But there's no chance of doing it now. We didn't even have an inkling to go to Northern Ireland, to be honest. We stayed in the south. O'Fallon, County Galway. Been to Galway? Very nice.
Yeah, love that place.
Very beautiful. Irish people are just about identical to Australians in their humour, in their friendliness. They're very friendly. If you look lost, they'll say, "What you doing? I'll find you something." From the River Suck. Just as well there wasn't a county in Ireland called Hard.
How's cute to think of that?
I tell you what, Tammy, we've got the kitchen together, and all we are waiting for now is the bench tops, which were measured and templated on Friday.
Yeah.
So next Thursday or Friday they will be installed. So should be good to go. Just got to get the plumber to plumb the sink in, electrician to plumb in the oven. So just about there. We will have a kitchen. We will be like royalty, living off a stove for the last few years. I like cooking anything. Trust me, I love cooking. So if there has to be a campfire, a wood fire, a little portable gas stovetop, don't care. I'll make it happen. I'm going to do a couple of videos, not to pinpoint that we're going through hard times, but sometimes you don't get yeast. And at the moment I can't buy yeast, there isn't any available. But you can make unleavened bread. You can make sourdough bread with just flour. So I'll be showing a couple of videos of, okay, it's not the bread you're used to, although you'll be used to sourdough, but you'll be used to flat bread, as in you can make them, just make them on the day you're going to eat them, and you can turn them into like wraps. You can use a bit thinner mix, and you can turn them into enchilada. So yeah, it's not normal bread, but bread the same. It's bread that people have eaten for thousands of years. Yep, we've already, people in Australia, we haven't got it, but people in Australia have received $750 first payment There'll be another one. Waiting on headphones to charge. I checked my solar the last few days. We've averaged between 20 and 30 kilowatts of power. Now we only use about 11, so we've got more than enough solar energy. Haven't got the battery yet. We're still waiting on the government here in my state to approve a subsidy. And then I can buy a battery with a $4,000 subsidy off the price. Not to be political, but lol, the Dems are fighting it and the Republicans are supporting it. It's weird, isn't it, when you think about it? It has to happen. I'm going to tell you why it has to happen, why people need money in their hands. Is because people will spend it one way or another. They will spend the money, which means that the wheels of the economy still spin. Plus, there's no safety net in America like other countries. In other words, I think the maximum you can have unemployment's 99 weeks, but I think that was an extension. I don't think it's 99 weeks. Remember, a mate of mine many years ago said he only got 13 weeks. So it may depend what state you're in or what job you had, I don't know. But if you saw what the UK did yesterday, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the money man in the government over there, has guaranteed, even if you stay home in the UK, you'll get a payment from the government 80% equal to what you earn. Say you earn £1,000 a week in the UK, you'll get £800 for not working. And that will unfold in Australia as well. Yeah, no, not Fed. This is government. Fed Reserve is not part of the government, but this is the treasurer, basically, in the Westminster system. But yep, 80% of people's wages will be paid directly into their bank accounts from the government, whether they work or not. In Australia, that will also unfold. If you don't have people with money, you have desperate people. And in Australia, banks have already given everyone a 6-month holiday from any bank loans or mortgage you have. Doesn't mean that they don't want the money back later, but a 6-month holiday on that. The government's giving $25,000 to small business owners. So we know we're going to be okay economically, even though you've got to believe that there's a payback in the future for all this. We are shut down. Yeah, we're literally shut down here. People have not been waiting for the government to say close. Half the kids are not at school, even though the schools are open. Teachers at the school where one of our grandsons went on Friday, he came home and said, the teacher says, if you don't want to come to school, that's okay. Hello, Scarlett. So a shutdown is happening in our hotels and restaurants anyway, because no one's going. So they're better off closing them. Imagine being an owner of a pub. You normally have 200 people a night in there and no one's coming. Same with restaurants. I did phone the office of the leader of our federal opposition. I didn't get to speak to him, but I've spoken to him before. And I left a message saying I think I told you last night, utilising restaurants and cafes that are not going to have any business and coupling it with deliveries of food for old people. Along with the delivery of food, a nurse would be a good idea to go with them to check on the old people. And it was well received and it's being passed on. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I know it's happening on a small scale anyway, just people helping. There are Facebook pages apparently and Twitter pages in Australia where people are finding out where old people are and not pressuring them, but helping them.
On the news, there's a couple of shops in Perth that have put groceries out the front for people that can't get stuff from the shops and to help themselves. And they're all being very good about it. They're only taking one of this and one of that.
Nice part of America, New England. A very old part of America too. Reminds me of that song. We'll get by with a little help from our friends. Yeah, we'll get by with a little help from our friends. Because that's what's going to happen. People are going to stand up and people will help. You will help strangers. And if it happens to be the other way around, that's okay. Be right back, Tammy. Yeah, it was. I mean, at the time, though, Al Green, everywhere was the same. The world went through a very strange period of blaming everything on the devil, which is convenient. Like if you're many hundreds of years earlier, if you run the Spanish Inquisition, you could just say, yes, the devil. Burn the witch. We have been, over a very long time, a very cruel species. Our farmers have sold out of meat and chicken. Yeah, that's just people overbuying. Everything's restricted here. You can't overbuy. If you get to the checkout and you've bought too many of certain items, it says, you can't have that. They've got a really good thing happening here, Scarlett. If you're over 65, between 7 and 8 in the morning, only over 65s are allowed to go in. That's it. So they get first pick.
And people with
disabilities
and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good move. I think the overzealous panic buying might have ended, though people I think will still buy more than they need even when they go for a little shop. We're good for a couple of weeks before we go to the shop again ourselves. Yeah, very sad here. 87 years old, I think he was. You beg to find and to leave me in a shield for hungry old gringos and scarlet poppy field in the field. Beg to find and to leave me. Yeah, you can get some obstropolous old people. We know that, Scarlett. But they still deserve the right to get a bit of tucker, because the stuff that's not there, if they go there too late. I just dropped in to see what my condition was in. Okay, I'm a bit confused. What is your condition, other than being cute? Yep, it's happening here, but that's why I did phone the Leader of the Opposition, Federal Parliament, to give him the option of maybe helping businesses provide meals, and volunteers will come out of everywhere to deliver them, but in the same process allowing a nurse to attend. Oh, Mark, I get you. I got you. Yeah, it's going on. A nurse to attend to see. Just ask questions. Are you okay? Maybe authorise that nurse, if required, to have some medication on board, to issue it, as long as that there is a script by the person to fill it, if you know what I mean. Because they're so vulnerable, they're so scared, and no one's talking to them. So I can tell you, just a knock at the door with a meal and nurse, they will feel like, well, maybe people do care. And I think that is important. Just had a gust of wind and knocked my phone over. Because old people are just young people with wrinkles. Think about it. and the ghost train arrived. No one on board. The train was full of toilet paper, but it was a non-stop express. Yep, that's it. We are really just young people reckless.
Yes, the ghost train. Along with
There's no doubt, we've got to be realists, that it's going to get confusing for people if they're locked down for a month. There's been some good reports from Italy where some people have become very emotional, of course, but some have just said, well, we've got to work our way through this. And that feeling apparently has been contagious. So people are saying, just stick to yelling out from one balcony to another. We'll get through this, stand tall. Do you need anything? And apparently, even in the big apartment buildings, people are dropping something off like milk in the lift and putting it down to level 5, and the person that hasn't got milk gets the milk.
And what they're doing here in the street is taking table and chairs to the end of their driveway at the same time every night with a cup of tea or a wine and just checking up and down the road and saying hi to their neighbours.
Mm-hmm. No test given here. There apparently is heaps of testing kits in Australia. They are targeting people who are unwell. They are not targeting people who knock on the door and say, look, I'm not sure if I've got it, can I get the test? So that's not happening, unless you've been associated with someone who has been tested and came positive.
Well, people here are just doing what they've got to do. A lot of people check on their neighbours and do all that, but that's one way of checking on your neighbour. They just go at the front with a table and chair. Some even eat out there.
I mean, Italy is a very modern country. People think Italy is not. It is. It's extremely modern.
Oh,
But
yeah,
sadly,
young.
today, well over 600 people died in 24 hours. We have to understand that that's possible anywhere. So we've just got to hunker down, be smart, do what we have to do, and help where we can. Six cases where you live. I think where we live, there's about 90 in the major city of Perth.
Of the whole of Western Australia.
Yeah, but it's mainly Perth. Be vigilant, wash your hands. Don't tell your friends you're angry with them because you don't want to see them. Explain that we've all got to be doing the same thing. You still phone them, Skype them. We're doing something similar now. So you won't be lonely. You will feel isolated though. There's a big difference. So you have the urge to go and do something normal. You may have heard of a beach outside Sydney called Bondi Beach. Now, the enforcement of a 500 maximum gathering in the open was breached. There were thousands of people at Bondi. So they just closed all the beaches.
Yeah.
They said, okay, none of you are listening, go home. Of course, everyone wasn't happy, but until people start taking it a little bit more serious, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, good song that actually.
Oh,
Keep going.
no, that'll do. Pretty woman, walking down the street. Yeah, good singer, boy, let's be honest.
And the loss of another great musician today.
They mentioned it before.
Oh, I wasn't here.
Hello, Buttercup. I hear that everyone's getting paid in the UK, Buttercup, which is good. Make the balance books a little bit wobbly in the future, but good move.
Oh, great, huh?
do we have any cases. In the city I live of Perth, there are 90. But that will go up very, very quickly.
I still reckon the heat is making a difference, but I can't believe that because of the other hot countries that have had masses.
The one country that really worries me about all other countries is because of the density of people is Indonesia. They live side by side. I mean, in what you would call a quarter-acre block in Jakarta, I'm not kidding you, there'll be 200 people living on it. They are so crammed in. And they admit it's out of control at the moment. They're not sure what to do. They don't have the medical facilities to cater. I mean, Italy has at full capacity now and over, but they're doing everything they can because they have some equipment. Indonesia, not so much. It will be, without doubt, in the future, reflecting back, it will be the poor who suffer most through this, obviously. Africa, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan to an extent, Indonesia, Micronesia, Malay. Yep, it will certainly make a real red spot for sure, Buttercup, but I can envisage an England, if that didn't happen, with mass rioting. So they're not just doing it out of the goodness of their heart, are they? Although it is a good move. Yep. You're also going to have reservists. We are as well. I think for a year it won't be the same, even when it eases up, old gringo. But I still think that people will come out of this better people. I refer back to the Second World War and the duress that people will put under. And I can only speak of my families in the UK, but mate, they did it tough, without question. Many lost their lives. It's not the same as a war, but it is similar in the effect. And I think you'll hear people, someone smarter than me in the UK, saying when we come out of this, we'll have a greater Britain. Because people in Britain like making speeches like that. But it will, those words will be used. I believe when we come out of this, we'll be a greater Britain. Because I think it's true. Test people under duress, test their mental capabilities, their adaptness, their resourcefulness. It all is put under the pressure. What happens when people are not any of those things is people like Scarlett and Buttercup and old Gringo who've got experience and can calm a situation will be infectious in a good way. They'll say, oh yeah, you're right, old Gringo, I shouldn't panic and whatever. Park in front of a grocery store, shopping plaza that I go, one of the places go, okay. I've spoken for many years that the whole system on the planet, doesn't matter what you call it, communism, republicanism, democrat, doesn't matter. It's all the greedy bastards. We all know it, doesn't matter what sort of system you work under. And I think this will fundamentally maybe break certain parts of that chain of master and slave. I hope so. Yep, that's true. And it will come to the surface because I believe most people think, like I do, is that poor bloke living under a bridge, shivering, whatever, and during this time, yeah, we are going to drop boxes of food off and blankets, or maybe pointing to an area where he can go. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with the homeless in general, is that they won't trust anyone. Yeah, I believe you're right, Scarlett. a lot of homeless people don't trust people now if they give them money or gifts. They want to go, what are you doing that for? But they won't have a choice shortly. I think they will be rounded up under the guise of it's for their own benefit. I did hear a story online. It was somewhere, I think it was in Illinois actually, where they're going to, the council or county is going to hire RVs, brand new ones, and put infectious homeless people in them and use them as quarantine. And that's not such a bad idea. I don't know who will buy the RV afterwards, but...
Oh, maybe they'll just find second-hand ones then.
So a lot of things like that. I mean, I don't know how many FEMA trailers there are, but I did hear a long time ago there were well over 500,000. And I'm sure they're parked somewhere.
They might all send them off to what's the name? Slab City.
No, that's not going to happen. There is nothing out there.
That's right.
Well, how are they going to give them water, medication?
Truck all that out to them. Keep them there.
I would think that would be the answer, Scarlett. Is that a bad thing? Well, they're better off there than on the street. And then, let's be honest, homeless people cluster. If one of them gets it, all of them get it. And usually most homeless people are old people. I hear you, Buttercup, because here the unions are asking for shop staff to get paid danger money. There's punch-ups all the time. Yeah, they are helpless, the homeless. We have homeless in Australia. It's usually the reverse of America. Usually it's lots of younger people, drugs, homelessness due to family conditions, etc. So we have a higher proportion of under 30s homeless than we do in America, where a lot of it, they're over 50s. There's no safety net for Americans. There's no health care for Americans. I remember seeing a terrible story 4 or 5 years ago where a lady, there was a CCT camera where a bus had her in it and they just dropped her off and she fell over and they drove away. What it was, she'd gone to a hospital and she'd asked for some help and they said, have you got health insurance? And she said, no. So they put her in a bus and took her 5 miles away and dropped her off. It's unbelievable. I know this sounds cruel, Scarlett, but those that are homeless now are probably not the ones we should target. It's the people that are thinking or nearly on the edge of becoming homeless. I know that sounds cruel, but prevention, you know what I'm saying, is better than anything else. So how do we do that? Well, we all know when people are on the brink of bankruptcy or things like that, and if you can prevent them going into homelessness, if you have safety nets. Now, I can tell you, I've met a lot of homeless people in my time, a lot of old blokes. I used to give them bits and pieces, but they were just set in their ways. There's no way. They don't like being in shelters because stuff gets stolen or they have fights or they go to a shelter and they're told at the last minute, no, there's no more beds. So they would prefer to find a little nook and cranny somewhere on their own, have their little drink, something to eat.
Small minority that choose to be homeless. There is the odd one that chooses. I can hear it be. I thought so.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you there, Tammy, but affordability from a month ago and affordability in 6 months is going to be a great leveller. We are all going to be broke. We've got to be realistic here, as governments will be broke. Work will recommence eventually, and the entitlement is what you're talking about. And Scarlett's just type that in. The entitlement might get a little rounded off. and the selfishness and the me. Because we're not going through a me stage right now. We've all talked about this in the past, but the me won't work during this pandemic. It's us. I always believe that I will have the ability, even if I was down on my luck, to get by. And I'm a stubborn old bugger. I'll get by my way. Yep, that's all it takes. Old ring, it takes just circumstance. No job, rent's due. Landlord says, mate, you got to go. You haven't got a car because you've sold it to pay the rent. All of a sudden, you're that same guy driving past after your job, seeing a bloke on the side of the road. It could have been you or I. And I truly believe that. We are not immune to things like that. There's no way that would happen in Australia. Although, let's be honest, the suicide rate from veterans all over the world is horrendous. But the veterans are catered for here in a pretty damn fine way. Even when they pass on, the veteran's wife will be looked after as well. We have an RSL around Australia. It's called Return Service League, and there are leagues all over the world. But they pour millions each month into services for mental health, accommodation, housing, even dentistry. So a lot of veterans get well and truly looked after. Met a lawyer on the street, Los Angeles, his wife. Yeah, circumstance. I'll ring it. That's all it takes. We could learn a lot off people like in Singapore, China, where they work bloody hard. I mean, I've met some magnificent Chinese Australians, and they do nepotism. They'll employ their own families and jobs and little supermarkets they own and businesses and cleaning and building. But they look after each other. That's the one thing, and I've said this years ago, the one thing that the Western culture has been devoid of for many years is a sense of community. Me and Scarlett have often talked about, and so me and Buttercup, about how when we were kids, everyone knew you. And if you were thirsty, you could knock on anyone's door and they'd give you a drink or something to eat. That sense of community has been annihilated over the last 30 years. I hope, through this adversity, that we get to see a bit more of it come back. There's an old saying my granddad used to say too. He said, life was never meant to be easy, but it shouldn't be this bloody hard. And that was something to do with bugs getting into his garden. But he took it pretty personally. But I get what he was saying. Life is not easy. They do a sort of a food stamp here as a supplementary income, but you only get like 30 or 50 bucks every now and then, not all the time. I've seen some people divorce to the extent that in the end, there is no asset left. Lawyers' fees have just taken everything. Yep, I said that just the other night. I said we should have milk delivered, bread delivered. I think that will happen, to be honest. Not they'll, someone says, oh, it's $10 for a loaf of bread, I say, don't worry about it, mate. But it won't be. It'll be people just doing the right thing. What happens when you go through something devastating in life is you don't forget it, and it's a good thing not to forget it. The things that you can then avoid to repeat, if you know what I mean. But it does toughen you up, or it breaks you. That's the difference. If you're resourceful and resilient enough, you'll come out the other end and you won't forget, but you don't live in the past, you move forward. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, $100 US in my pocket, I could live like a king for a month. And no junk food. I'll tell you what we will see, if this is an extended period of time, and I'm talking over a year, it very well may be that we're issued coupon books. And I mean that seriously, because there's a lot of things that won't get produced. If it gets that bad over a longer period, you'll go back to having, like, you can buy 4 rashers of bacon, 5 ounces of butter, etc. Because reduction means that there's not much to go around, and the only way to get a fair share is to have a coupon. So you go to the shop and they say, well, have you got a coupon for that? You go, yeah, here it is. And they punch it or they take it off you. That's one way of equalising whatever is available. So it very well may come to that. And ration books didn't come like just generic. They would have had Scarlet Poppyfield, 5 Smith Street. You have this coupon book for the month. And the coupons are not good for the next month. So that's how it used to work. You couldn't save up your coupons, although there was a bit of a black market. I think, without doubt, and I just read what Buttercup wrote, I think it makes you a stronger person, old Ringo. It makes you realise how low it can go. And then when you sort of rise up a bit and you start getting your life in order, you then look around and see other people where you were. And it's a great leveler. It levels out your thought processes. I remember seeing the ration books. The rations didn't end after the Second World War in the UK. I think they went right up to about 1958, 59. Many years after the war, because production coming back was slow. So they had to margin the supply by having ration books still. I'm pretty sure it was 58, something like that, that they ended. So I think the long-term effects is that we may appreciate some of the little things in life we just take for granted now.
Yeah, but how long will that last? Didn't sort of carry down the generations after the Spanish flu, after all the other plagues, after all the other pandemic diseases. It does get forgotten.
Yeah,
Well,
it's one of those things that stays in the living memory.
Yeah.
You know, our kids in 70 years' time, they'll remember this. We won't be here, but they will remember it.
If you tell, depending on the age, and if you tell them the stories, yes. If you pass on your stories, then it will be remembered.
Do you know why it'll be remembered more now? Is that there wasn't masses of media in 1918 to 1920 with the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
Everything's being recorded now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep, it does happen because when good times kick back in, people live in that time.
See, we've always appreciated what we've had, and that's partly, well, that's because of my upbringing and the stories that Mum and Dad told me.
Scarlett is a very, very intelligent, knowledgeable person. She will be passing on knowledge to people, because now if you stop a 20-year-old and say, I'll show you how to make bread, they go, no, I haven't got time. Well, that time's coming, and they'll listen intently to what Scarlett's got to say. How do you grow those? I'll show you.
So we do it with our kids. They've all tried to make bread. They've all watched what Seeds cooks. They've copied what he cooks. They ring him and they ask him. They've all planted gardens.
My daughter's actually just sent me a photo, which I'll look later, of a fried rice that I make. And she would only have sent it me if it turned out really good.
Yes.
So obviously I'll probably get a little container full of it. And she'll say, how's that? Is that good? Yes, good enough. We can eat steak. We don't eat steak a lot though, do we? Let's be honest.
No, well,
I spoil
especially
myself
me.
every now and then because I'm a very basic person. I love flavours. So I'm your shepherd's pie. We had a stew tonight. I like making homemade pies out of leftovers. Pasties, sausage rolls. Steak, yeah. Every now and then. Actually, I forget sometimes and you say to me, why don't you buy yourself a steak? I go, yeah, it's a good idea.
Because I don't really eat it.
Oh, I think you like fillet steak, but not a big piece.
Well, no, it depends how you do it or what you've done with it. I still rather make my homemade hamburger or something.
But I like experimenting, I like flavours. I could never follow a damn recipe if someone gave me one because I want to add to it different stuff. Soups, I love making soups. We have soup, that soup season's coming up. I'll be kicking in my potato, bacon and leek soup shortly.
Oh, we even
Pumpkin
have it
soup.
during summer.
Yeah. It's funny, I've looked into American qualifications for quite a lot of things like unemployment, healthcare, food stamps. It seems some people who need stuff just don't qualify. It's marginal.
Try and...
Alsatian meat pie.
I hope with the trip I was reading that right.
Sounds like a dog pie.
An Alsatian here is a German Shepherd.
The Australian colloquial name for a pie is a dog's eye. Dog's eye and horse, which is meat pie and sauce. It's a bit like Cockney to a certain extent. But I make pie, I love pies. And it's nothing better than sitting down having something you've made yourself and you go, that's pretty damn good, I like that. But yeah, we do love winter for food in regards to, I love stews, soups, curries to a certain extent. We had a curry last night. But that's the sort of food I like. Hearty soup. I must admit, I like slow cooked food better than fast cooked food. Spain and French, yeah. Okay. A dog's eye and horse, that's right, which is a pie and sauce.
Ah. Okay, explain.
But we're going to have conversations with other people that come into not just my room, but other rooms, about how do you make bread? I've got this in the cupboard, what can I make out of that? And the ingenious amongst us will say, I tell you what, you've got celery, carrots, onion, garlic, did you say? Yeah, got garlic. You've got some old chops in the freezer. Well, here we go. We can make a miracle out of this. Because knowledge, you can't buy. Kids today can go down and buy any gadget they like and anything they want to eat, but they can't go buy a packet of knowledge. That takes time. And passing knowledge on, I believe, is what we should do if we've got some knowledge. Yeah, bread can be made lots of ways. I mean, one of the oldest ways of making bread in the bush in Australia is just damper. And it really is just flour, water, and if you're lucky to have a bit of milk, good. And you mix it up, not a lot, you mix it up, and then you let it sit for a couple of hours and you put it in a big cast iron, whatever, and just cook it. I've done a video on damper, I think.
Yeah. Yes, we are all students and we are all teachers.
Yep. You're dead right. That's the combination. I will often listen to someone even say how they do something. Well, it used to be a tradition, Buttercup, where that was normal. My grandfather passed a lot on to me. My grandmother passed a lot on to me. My mother's cooking, I would watch and learn. But the only time you actually gain the knowledge is by doing. Having a book of recipes doesn't give you the true context, if you know what I mean. It's the doing and thinking, oh, needs a bit more pepper. Or, it's missing something. And I know Scarlett and Buttercup would say that thing like I do each time, what's it missing? Damn, what's it missing? And then you figure it out. Because you have the knowledge to know what was missing. A history professor. I love history. It's interesting and it teaches us a lot. It shows us in our humanity. We don't change much. Technology changes, but humanity rarely changes. G'day, Tony. Update for you, Tony. First 4 days of solar, between 24 and 30 kilowatt we're getting. Sour creams, it sometimes just makes a nice little addition to a meal, doesn't it, Scarlett?
Oh, I love sour cream. Actually didn't grab one when we went to the shop, did we?
What's that?
Sour cream.
No. And we generally use, Tony, about 11 at tops. So we're covered. Of course, night time, without the battery, I'm using their power. Or your whole grain mustard, that adds a nice little touch. I'll tell you what's nice. No, because you got me going, Scarlett and Buttercup. Tell you what's nice. If you make some homemade buns and they're 90% cooked, take them out of the oven very, very quickly because they're not going to lose their shape, and get butter and garlic. Smother the tops of them. Put them back in. Last 5 or 10 minutes. You know, chunky bits of garlic and butter. That is yum. It's like, yeah, it's garlic bread, but it's just different. Beer recipes, yeah, beer's very old. I think when I read into history in regards to things like that, the most distant memory of anything that was used medicinally or in cooking or in preserving was vinegar. It had a bit of everything. It can be sterile, so you put it in an open wound, it would make you scream a little bit. You can preserve food in it, and you can add it as a flavouring. People really use vinegar now. I put a little bit of brown vinegar sometimes in something. I think, oh, it needs a bit of tartness. Just a teaspoon brown vinegar. Yep, nettle beer. Yep, elderberry. Ales were, the worst thing that ever happened was probably in the 17th century was gin. There were gin houses and people were paid in gin. Mind you, some of the gin would kill you. How they made it.
That's the third plane I've heard tonight. It's unusual. And there's another one coming in.
Well, they're all going to be domestics.
Oh, that, look at the lights on that plane. That's unusual to be that bright. Yeah.
Yep. Whole birch beer. Yeah, you can make beer out of so many things. You just need the natural yeasts and sugars to kick in. Birch is actually also sterile, I believe, Scarlett. Aboriginals in Australia, we have a tree called the paper bark tree. And literally, you can peel off layers and layers and layers and layers and layers before you get to the trunk. So Aboriginals would just tear off thin strips and put it over open wounds. It used to work. I got an early Mother's Day present yesterday, a pair of pink underwear. Oh no, elderflower. I'm sorry.
Pink
Gin.
underwear.
Very nice.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
just have another wee dram of this gin. Oh, empty. Son, you bought me the smallest damn bottle. Where's the big one? I'll tell you one of the most potent, because I made it. Me and my brother used to experiment with making stuff, is a potato brew. Yeast, potato skins mainly, and bits and pieces. And it turned out like champagne, except champagne doesn't have an alcoholic content of around 55%. It tasted like a soda. Well, this is good. We had one glass each. I said, I don't want, no, I'm good. I don't want any more. And we didn't get sick or anything, but my goodness. Potato champagne, basically, with lots of alcohol. And a lot of people do make mistakes when they make alcohol and drink it, A, too early. That's normally where people get sick. Or B, too potent. And you still get sick. It's called alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, that's why I can't drink white spirits.
You have a bottle from New Year's. Well, we've got loads of alcohol because kids buy it for us for birthdays and things like that. And we just don't drink a lot. We like a Scotch and Coke. I can't remember the last time we had one. We'll tell you Scotch.
Happy Mummy's Day. Australia's Mummy's Day over there, isn't it?
I can't get yeast. Because I bought some flour. I thought, yeah, I'll just buy a little bit of yeast. Can't get it. I'll tell you where I can get it, actually. You know, Two Brothers. I was thinking
You
of that.
reckon?
Well, yeah, because it's a wholesaler. I'll do that, actually.
Well, we didn't look today, to be honest.
I did.
You did.
Yeah, there's no flour and there's no yeast.
Well, not flour. You know how to do your own anyway.
If you've got fruit of any kind, you can make alcohol. And with some fruit, you don't need yeast. You just need a compound of sugar and natural yeast. So alcohol's not going to be a problem in the future. Mind you, I don't drink a lot of it anyway.
Well,
But if we wanted to have a drink, I could make stuff.
Tammy will be making some wine.
Strawberry wine I've had, it's very nice, very light. I think it still gets up to about 17, 18% alcohol though, because there are lots of natural sugars in strawberries. Cider, I love cider. Oh, I love another one of them cloudy ciders. It's not ready yet, be ready in a couple of, oh, just give it to the old man, I'm ready for it now. You make gin out of lots of things as well. Brandies, oh yeah, they're nice. Actually, what I do like is a good, and I haven't had one for a very long time, I do like a nice cognac. But they're pretty expensive, I think, so I don't buy it. On occasions, I'll have it, like once in 20 years. You need to lay down, not feeling well? Well, you make sure you eat, sleep, and we'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
So did it the old Gday?
Really, it's that simple. My grandfather used to make it, and he'd make sure he had all types of apples, brambles, UK type of apple. He'd even throw in crab apples, whatever he could get hold of. And what he would do is put them in a big bucket, and he would just throw a handful of sugar and a bit of water in, and he'd stir the bucket for a couple of days. And there's a natural breaking down process. And he had an old press, which was used for something else, but he turned it into a press. And he used to press it between layers of straw. And literally, all you do is squeeze apple juice. But he used to use a prep before, like say sugar and a bit of water, leave it for a few days. It naturally ferments. and it's pretty much around 10 to 15%. I've seen lesser alcohol commercial ciders, but I remember my grandfather saying 10 to 15%. And as a kid in the British Legions, which Buttercup knows about, kids were allowed to drink cider, and it was alcoholic cider. You only got one.
Yeah, we were allowed as a kid to have bits of
But yeah, so
alcohol.
I grew up with elderberry wine, strawberry wine, rhubarb wine, you name it. You can make any, and they call it wine, but it's sort of like alcoholic fruit juice. That's the way you think about it. Wine vinegar, yep. Just leave it a lot longer, don't you, Scott? Yeah, I mean, I do know, like I say, the process of cider with my grandfather was. I do something similar with different products, but I use salt, and that is when I make my pickled onions, I peel them, put them in a big bowl, and I put 2 big handfuls of salt over the top, mix it in, put a cloth over it overnight, and that starts the pickling process. And then I wash all the salt off because it's already penetrated anyway. But by doing it that way, leave them for 24 hours, and then you rinse them, add the jar, make your brine. There's so many different brines. I do like brown vinegar or malt vinegar, and I'll add bits and pieces like garlic or chili or something like that, whatever I feel like at the time or what I've got on hand. And I can eat my pickled onions in a week.
Who's Butty asking how long does it need to be left? You talking about a wine, Butty?
You're talking about cider?
Or cider?
There's 2 or 3 stages of fermentation. Just Google and look at the old ways of doing it, not the new way. The old way is you press. You don't have to barrel. You don't have to bottle. I certainly wouldn't bottle squeezed apple juice with sugar in it straight away because it needs this natural fermentation kick. So you've virtually got to
Cider.
not open container, but something that can breathe. You know, if you buy an old beer making kit, you know, people put little bubbler on top. Just leave the top off. But Google, have a look, maybe a few YouTube videos. But the old way is to press, let the fermentation goes crazy. And then there's a little second kick fermentation. And I know my grandfather never used to put any sugar in the bottles of cider he made because he said not required because there are so many natural sugars. But I remember seeing him just put it in a plastic rubbish bin when they first came out.
But he's got plastic tubs.
You know, with a plastic lid. But it's a case of trial and error because like all fermentations, if you drink it too early, you are going to get sick. If you leave it way too late, it becomes rancid. So there's a balance in between. Depends the season. So it's good fun. I mean, making things like that. The elderberry wine process was a very long, slow press, if I remember rightly. But fruit in general, I remember the one that really gave me a kick as a kid was rhubarb wine. Tastes like port to me, like whoa. And they used to, you know how balsamic vinegar is reduced and you get the really fine, expensive ones that are like a real syrup? But he used to make a rhubarb syrup similar. And it was for cooking, like you'd add cinnamon or nutmeg to things. He would add a little bit of this rhubarb essence, is the best way to describe it. Say through an apple pie or something, you know what I mean? Even though there is no rhubarb in there, there's the essence of the rhubarb syrup. Because you can make jams out of everything as well. Rhubarb jams, yum. Rhubarb is not just one of those things you have to make rhubarb and custard with. You can do a lot of things with it. I used to just love eating it raw, to be honest. Yep, that's the best one, the Victoria. They get enormous though, Scarlett, don't they? The crowns on them. I mean, it takes really, if you've had rhubarb, you'll know it takes about the 3rd season and then they become monsters. They really do. You don't want to grow rhubarb in the middle of your garden bed. Trust me, you need a rhubarb patch. And once you have rhubarb, you've got it for life. I see what you do. Yeah, that's clever. All those veins, be nice. Getting a few gusty winds, aren't we?
Yeah, it is. That's blowing too.
Turn the ship into the wind and lower the mainsail. Arr. Rhubarb dipped in sugar. Yep. As a kid in the UK, I used to make a few mistakes. Like I'd go to an area where there's lots of crab apples, and in some part of the season they're not that bitter. They're okay, but then you would eat too many.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Whoa, tummy ache coming up.
I'm with you, Tammy. I usually like another fruit with my rhubarb.
I mean, for me, rhubarb and apple or rhubarb and pear, they're the match that works for me. Yep, yep, you can make compote out of anything. But even just making jams, I mean, imagine if you got a few kids and you said, look, do you like strawberry jam? They go, oh, yeah, I love strawberry jam. Would you like to know how it's made? And they say, with real strawberries? I go, yeah. No preservatives. Well, just the obvious ones, but no additives and colourings and just the real thing. I'm going to put quite a lot of blueberry bushes in.
I forgot to buy them today.
What? Blueberry bushes?
How could I forget my blueberries? How could I forget to buy my blueberries? My goodness. I was waiting for that to fall.
Wind's still blowing. Mason jar. Look, you don't need mason jars. You know those sauce jars you get like for making pasta? Just rinse them out, wash them, soak them, leave the lids off, and just before you use them, dip them in a nice pot of boiled water, not boiling, boiled water, a couple of minutes, and put whatever you like in them. They're good to go. Mason jars are really expensive these days, I think.
Because they've become popular as an everyday item to drink out of. Because I've got some with handles.
Yeah, no, I'm actually going to put in a compound of soil that stays wet because we have sand. But my grow beds will be weed mat on the bottom, probably timber or limestone. I haven't worked out what I'm doing yet. Then 4 inches of blue metal with a pipe halfway at the level of the blue metal for overflow of excess water. But that tells me when I'm watering the blueberries that I've got enough water, because water will work osmosis-wise with the roots of blueberry bushes. So I'm well aware they need that water. But you can't have a big grow bed with no drainage, because people will overwater and then plants rot. You need plants to have water, moist, but if you're in between being wet all the time or too dry, plants will stress. Actually, if you have a quick look at our week 27 video, only goes for a couple of minutes, there's a couple of the neighbours' chickens, because we were digging the footings for the limestone. They figured they must be digging for something, and they came over and started digging as well. All these domestic flights coming in at the same time.
I think that's from people that have been made to come home.
I think so, yeah. But there will be channels shortly. We'll do it here, but we're doing it now, discussing about different foods and way we can do things. But there'll be probably specific channels where people will help other people. I mean, if you asked someone to make a banana cake, they go, okay, how do I do that? It's very simple. It is when you know. How do you make brownies? Yeah, it's pretty simple. Pickled peppers and green tomatoes. I love pickling vegetables. If you're brave enough to look on my channel, Tammy, you'll find heaps of them. I like bread and butter pickles. It's a bit of a process, but man, they taste good. Pickled onions, fermented chilies, you know, I love doing things like that. Yeah, moisture is important because it doesn't tolerate, like a lot of Australian plants are drought tolerant. Blueberries ain't drought tolerant. I've seen a lot of people fail miserably. I hope I don't fail, but because my wife eats tons of blueberries.
Yeah, like
So I'm figuring on about 10 bushes.
I forgot to buy some.
Next door. That was pretty common in the old days in Australia. Chickens wandered everywhere, and at night time they knew where to go. That's if the neighbourhood dog didn't get one.
Except for these two last night, I had to coax them. I had to pick one up and put him back through the hole.
They're pretty buggered now because the corner that they were getting in is basically sealed up now with the retaining wall. But we're going to go through some dark days. We're aware of that. But in amongst those dark days, if we can sparkle a little bit of light in people's directions, be it simple things like making biscuits. Imagine someone who's never baked at all but makes biscuits. They'd be thrilled.
It's only enough for this.
But a lot of people will learn the art of being thrifty and making things stretch. I mean, we had a curry last night, a little bit of the curry left over, deep in the freezer. I made about 2 months ago a stew, so I added that to the leftover curry, and I added a tin of peas, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
And it was yum. And there's a bit left over of the leftovers, so that would probably go on a piece of toast sometime tomorrow. Waste not, want not. Like, I enjoy looking in the fridge and think, leftover. Right, we can make something out of that. Anyway, I think we're going to say good night to you all.
Yep.
Well, good morning to most of you, or afternoon to some. So we shall do that. So from the... Sounds like a frog. So have a great day. Like I say, we're going through crap. Keep your head above the crap. And on occasions you will, I'm sure, definitely some of you, be helping people with the most simplistic things that we think of. To other people, they've just got no idea. So, and it's good to pass on a bit of knowledge. And like I say, I'm sure some of you, I'm sure Scarlet Swan and Butters is another one, where you like to feed people, and maybe that will be what you end up doing. Good morning to you, Tammy. But what I'm saying is you might even just drop off a meal to the old bloke down the road. And you might not need the food, but he certainly would enjoy the company and realise that he's not invisible. Because you know what old people are thinking right now, don't you? They don't exist. They're invisible. We're going to make sure that that doesn't happen. Anyway, during this windstorm, we're going to say good night to you and have a great day or evening or morning, wherever you are. Good night.